Hey, you're listening to the Gracecast, and my name is Amelia Page. Today we're continuing our conversation on values. We'll be talking about how to live generously and live faithfully. I hope that it's helpful for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back. And just a quick recap here from what we talked about a few weeks ago. For this month, we are talking about unchanging values in an unpredictable world. So there are some things that we can have in our heart that will guide us no matter what happens in the world. So it's easy to say that the world is unpredictable. And so we need to have an internal compass or an internal guide that helps us not change who we are no matter what goes on in the world around us. And so what we're doing this month is we're talking about 4 values. Obviously, there can be more than that, but 4 values that should be written on our heart that we can live by. And so from the scriptures, they talk about that we're to write these values on our heart so that we can live by these no matter what comes into our life. So we're not going to let a circumstance determine who we are or what we do. We're not going to let our feelings determine who we are or what we do. We'll let our values determine that. So in the book of Deuteronomy, all the way back in the Old Testament, we see where God really through Moses begins to start the conversation of how he wants them to take the law that he's given them, which the law is an external boundary. But the goal was always to take the law and put it on your heart, which that is an internal boundary. And that's what the values are. And so in Deuteronomy 6, we can see where, through Moses, God is speaking to the nation of Israel really about their values. So Amelia, like you did last time. Would you mind to read Deuteronomy 6, 1-9?
Yeah. So Deuteronomy 6, 1-9 says, "Now this is the commandment, the statutes and the rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you, that you may do them in the land to which you are going over to possess it, that you may fear the Lord your God, you and your son's son, by keeping all his statutes and his commandments, which I command you all the days of your life, and that your days may be long. Hear therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do them, that it may go well with you, and that you may multiply greatly, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has promised you in a land flowing with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates."
I love there in verse 6, Deuteronomy 6:6 says, "These shall be on your heart." That's really where the conversation of values comes in. God never intended to create laws to control people. He truly wants us to live a life that flourishes and a life that matters for him. And the way to do that is to take those external boundaries and internalize them and let them be a value system that we have that guides us. And so the 4 values that we're talking about this month is love God, love people, live generously, and be faithful. Those are 4 things we can do no matter what is going on in our lives personally or in the world around us. And I want to be mindful to say, I should have said this earlier, but if you haven't listened to episode 1 of this month, go back. It'd be important just to stop now and go back, because what we do is we dive deep into talking about the value of love God and love people, and how you make that a value, and really how you live that out in your life. And for today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 2 values, living generously and being faithful. But really where we get these 4 values from, they all were not there necessarily in Deuteronomy 6, but where we get these 4 values from is the wisest man to ever live, King Solomon, is a primary author of the book of Proverbs. And in Proverbs chapter 3, he actually talks about these 4 values. So Amelia, would you mind to read these?
Okay, so in chapter 3, verses 1-4, and then verses 9-10, it says, "My son, do not forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commandments. For the length of days and years of life and peace they will add to you. Let not steadfast love and faithfulness forsake you. Bind them around your neck, write them on the tablet of your heart, so you will find favor and good success in the sight of God and man. Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your produce. Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine."
And so as you see there in those, whatever that is, 6 verses in Proverbs 3, Solomon covers all four of these.
Yeah.
Love God, love people, live generously, and being faithful. And so today, like I said, we're going to talk about living generously and being faithful. We need to take these two values, or take these two things and make them values so they're written on the tablet of our heart, as Solomon mentioned. So the first one we'll talk about is living generously.
Yeah.
You ready to jump in?
Yes.
So I think the important question is, how do you live generously? What is a generous life? What does it look like? And I think it's important just to say this as we're talking about generosity. I think a lot of people, at least I can even do this myself, quickly jump to money is generosity. So when someone hears about live generously, they immediately think about, all right, we're going to talk about giving.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about money. And I would just say money is certainly a huge part of generosity. Yeah. I don't know, in what context necessarily you wouldn't talk about it. And I think it's okay to talk about money a lot because it's the number one subject Jesus taught about.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why Jesus taught about it a lot is because he knew that is the potential God that we could have in our life.
Where our heart is usually.
Absolutely. So if we're going to make the value, which is something written on our heart, is to be generous, there are times where we need to combat, the idol of money in our own life. But I want us to see generosity bigger than just money, because really, truly, generosity is dealing with an area of our life that we have a tendency to be stingy or selfish in. So if you think about your life, I know people, I'm thinking of them right now. I know people that don't really struggle with money. And I don't mean like they make a lot. I mean, there are some people that I just feel like are more naturally inclined to give money.
Yep.
And it's easy for them. They don't even think about it. So I would say for that person, maybe money is not the generosity conversation that they need to hear. It can apply in so many different lanes.
Yep.
I think about time. The greatest commodity in life is time. For you to give your time to somebody else, communicate something. And for a lot of people that are busy, it requires a sacrifice to give somebody your time. If somebody's stingy in their time, if they're saying, it's easier for me to be alone, work alone, be by myself, that's my happy place, whatever the case may be. Well, that person, the growth of generosity in their life is to say, don't be stingy or selfish in your time. Open up your schedule.
Yeah. That would communicate more that you care than if you wrote a check.
Right.
Yeah.
Be like, I'm going to give you access to me. So you can be generous in your time. I think you can be generous in your energy. That may be a weird thing to think about, but some days, rainy, cloudy, cold days, don't necessarily get me excited to jump out of bed, and get going with the day. But, somebody could be down, somebody could be discouraged today, and, coming in with positive energy, bringing my best to every room, every meeting, every conversation, it could be so helpful.
Yeah.
That requires generosity sometimes, just to say, I'm going to give my energy today, no matter what.
Yeah.
I think an area of generosity that's important for somebody is their emotions. Some people are easier at this than others, which this applies to all of them. Like, some people do not struggle sharing their emotions or how they feel, but other people do. And I think primarily men struggle in this area to really kind of open up and say, here's the emotional side of me. Here's how I feel about that. For men to be humble enough to say that hurt my feelings, they wouldn't like to do that. At least I don't. You can be generous in your emotions. Yeah. And another thing I thought of was vulnerability. I think for a lot of people, to admit a weakness or a sin or a particular struggle, instead of being stingy and holding on to that, actually giving that to somebody you trust, your spouse, or, at our church, life group ministry, hopefully relationships in a life group grow to where people can be honest with each other, and you're vulnerable and you just say, hey, here's my particular struggle. This is something I'm struggling in my life. Here's a weakness, or here's a sin, or here's something that to be able to generously offer up a vulnerable place in your life to tell somebody, hey, here's an area of my life I'm struggling in. But I just wanted to give those examples so that we don't just get caught up in. And when we talk about living a generous life, we're not just saying give money.
Give money, yeah.
I think generosity applies to look at every area of your life and say, where am I prone to be stingy?
Yeah.
Where am I prone to be selfish? And that is the area of my life I need to be more generous in.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, it reminds me of in Matthew 10 where Jesus says, freely you have received, so freely give. And he doesn't specifically say what specifically he means. And I think it requires you to think about what are the things that have been freely given to me from Christ, and think about like forgiveness and love and all of those things that require some thinking on your part. But what are the things that he's freely given you? And then be generous in those things, freely give them to everybody you encounter, I think is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. It's always good to remember the gospel, we give because he gave first.
Yeah.
Even to the last episode, we love because he first loved.
Yes.
I think that's a great point. So this is what living generously looks like. So then it begs the question, how do you make generosity a value? And it kind of goes back even to loving people if you listen to the last episode, but how do you make generosity a value? Be generous, do it. And I'm not trying to overly simplify it, but as you evaluate your particular area of struggle and generosity, start there. And I would say also in wisdom, like let's say somebody's struggle is money. If you're honest, that is maybe a God in your life. I'm not suggesting like clear the savings account and just give and all that kind of stuff, but within reason.
Yeah. Give what you can.
Give what you can. Take somebody to lunch and buy the meal. That's an act of generosity in your finances. I don't know. There could be more examples, but just start somewhere is what I would say. And just be generous in that area. Identify the struggle, identify where you're stingy. And let's say it's time. Make time for somebody today, or tomorrow. Maybe you're already in your day, but clear the calendar and just say, I'm going to make time for you.
Yeah. Take time to ask someone how they are. Like ask your coworker, not just about business, but give them the extra time.
Yeah. My particular, as I was talking that out loud, one of my greater struggles is the emotion part of it and the vulnerable part of it. So I'm going to schedule time to cry and,
I don't think that's what that means.
In my field. I know, I'm kidding. So, but I do struggle in those areas to really just, to just be real about where I'm at and where I'm struggling and something that is a weakness in my life, to just be willing to share that with somebody. I can even just share this. I didn't plan to, but I kind of got into a space not too long ago where I'm not somebody that struggles with anxiety. That's just not something that I'm naturally prone to. But I was going through a stretch in a season where I just felt it. I just felt like I was more anxious and I didn't know why. And I'm learning that's how anxiety can be. You just don't know why. It just springs up on you. But for me, I actually had a few people that noticed that something was off. And I actually, really for one of the first times in my life, I pulled them in and said, yeah, here's why I'm off. I don't know why. I don't have an answer. I'm praying. I'm reading the scriptures, but I just have anxiety about this. And I got specific with it and I shared it. And I think for the first time, James 5:16 came to life for me when the scriptures say, confess your sins or confess your faults or confess your weaknesses to one another so that you may be healed. And it was almost like the moment I shared that vulnerability, I almost naturally just felt healing in that moment.
Yeah.
And it was like it went away. I passed my burden off to somebody that I trust and somebody I know that would pray for me. And truly, I think since that day, I haven't felt it. And so it really gave me a good lesson in that area of just in this subject. I need to be more generous with people that I love and trust with here's how I am. Here's how I'm doing really. Here's really where I'm at and just be open and honest and share that. I think the more we do that, the more we will want to do it more.
Yeah, the easier it is for sure.
So that's living generously. And then the fourth and final value we're talking about this month is to be faithful, So how do you live a faithful life? And I would just say faithfulness is really about consistency. It's about doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. That doesn't sound exciting, but that's really what it is. And, and when you think about the Christian life, we're measured by our faithfulness.
Yeah.
So it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's about the long haul. It's about doing the same things over and over.
A long obedience in the same direction.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say it every time.
Yeah. What's that book called? Who wrote the book?
You're asking again that I don't remember how to say his name. I can't remember if it's Eugene Peterson or Patterson. I can never remember. Peterson. Yeah.
I have the
great book.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people reference it. Amelia references it all the time, but great book. Get the book if you don't have it. But anyway, a side note.
A plug.
Yeah. Plug for the book. So anyway, to be faithful, I started thinking about it like in the area of exercise, how to become faithful. It's about, consistently doing the same things over time. And I was thinking about when you get out of an exercise routine, it's really hard to get back in one. Usually those days like 3 to 7 are really hard because you're starting to try to form a habit of exercise and you're sore and you're tired and you wake up not feeling great and you don't want to. But in order to be somebody who exercises faithfully and consistently, it's about waking up on the hard days and doing it. Yeah. And how do you do that? You decide before you feel bad that you're going to wake up.
You're going to do it.
You've already put a mental note. You already set it in your heart and you're saying, I'm waking up tomorrow no matter how I feel. Now, if you wake up with the flu, okay, that's one thing. But no matter how I feel, I'm waking up tomorrow because I want to be in shape or whatever, however that applies. Same as with faithfulness. Yeah. It's deciding ahead of time, this is what I'm going to do no matter what. And I think several areas of faithfulness that we need to decide just in our heart and our life to say, this is what I'm going to do today, no matter what, no matter how I feel, no matter what circumstances are. Yeah, I'm showing up. That's in our relationship with God. Corporate worship. I would say that's Sunday morning attendance in church, doing life with people and giving. I think those are 4 areas that we can be faithful in our life where we're going to show up day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out. We're going to do this over the long haul. And we're going to say, I'm going to walk with God today. Even if I feel like God's not with me, even if I don't feel like he's there, I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. I'm going to read, I'm going to pray, I'm going to meditate. Corporate worship. Some Sunday mornings, I'll be honest, I'm a pastor. I don't feel like it.
When you wake up and it's cold and it's snowing and your bed is so warm. And
yes. It's like, you heard it here first. I don't feel like doing that today. Yeah. But usually those are the days
that it means the most.
Absolutely. That somebody gives you a word of encouragement or a particular song speaks to you or the message speaks to you. So it's about, even on the days you don't feel like it, get up, something about, especially for families, there's something about setting a habit of saying, we're going to do this together. Yeah. My kids are going to be in kids church. My teens are going to be with youth. I'm going to show up and this is what we do. Just be faithful. Do it week in, week out. Doing life with people. The older I get, I know I'm young, but the older I get, the more I realize how much I need people in my life. Yeah. And to just say, you know what, barring a medical crisis, sometimes work gets in the way, but this week I'm going to be with people and I'm going to be open and honest and do life with people. And then giving, I'm going to give no matter what. Yeah. If the finances go backwards, I'm still giving. Yeah. If I'm in financial success, I'm still giving no matter what. I've decided it in my heart. Doesn't matter how I feel tomorrow. I'm going to be faithful in my walk with God, corporate worship, doing life with people, and giving. I
love the example of exercise because exercise is one of those things that, like you said, the first week or so, it's so hard. Yeah. And then after a while, it feels really good. Like it's like, oh, I want to go to the gym and get that workout in because it's going to feel really good. And like, it's something you look forward to. And I think all of these things on this list are those things. I think even in my life group a few weeks ago, we were talking about how when you're out of the habit of reading your Bible, it's not something that you long for necessarily. But then when you are in the habit of reading it every day, when you miss a day, it's like, oh man, like I missed out on that time and I wish I had gotten it in. And it's something that you start to crave, like someone who's exercising every day would the same exact way. And I think it was a really good example. Yeah,
I think it's a great example. So I guess we'll conclude with this. How do you make faithfulness a value? And I'm going to feel like a broken drum here, but
show up.
Just do it. How you make it a value is when you're in the moment, when you don't feel like it, you do it anyway. Yeah. And then you do that again. And then you do that again. In the times that it's like, I'd rather not go to church today, or I'd rather not go to group today, or, finances are tough. I'm going to hold on to that. And I think that's what you do. It's you show up when you don't feel like it. And then you get that internal win, it's like, I did it, when I didn't feel like it, I did it anyway. And that makes you want to do it again.
Yeah.
And it makes you want to keep showing up. So it may be simple, but that's what I would say. How do you make it a value? Just show up in the moments when you don't feel like it. Prove to yourself you're going to show up.
It's the most important in that moment.
Yep. And so I guess to sum it all up, we need to live by, like we said in the beginning, unchanging values in an unpredictable world. And we all know, yes, this is an unpredictable world.
Yes.
But every single day, these are 4 things we can do, no matter who's in the White House,
yes,
no matter what circumstances are going on, no matter what's happening in our personal lives. We can love God today. We can love people today. We can live generously today, and we can be faithful today.
Yeah.
And so hope you put these on the tablet of your heart, as Solomon says, and we live truly by unchanging values in an unpredictable world. See y'all next time.
Let's keep showing up. This conversation was a challenge to me, and I hope that it was for you too. Make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss next month's topic. We're going to have some guests on talking all about family and leading your home towards Jesus. It's going to be great. In the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media. And of course, we would love to have you join us for church in person and online. You can get all the info at our website, gracelives.com. Bye.